Hello there. Welcome to the Saroy channel, wherever you are in the world, and so much love to each and every one of you. How are you doing? I do hope you're doing remarkably well. I'm doing great, thank you very much, and I'm so delighted you've joined me tonight for another sensational story. You're going to absolutely love the story. But before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell and the thumbs up, and please do leave comments because I do so love hearing from you and it is so great for the algorithms. Well, let's get started with our story. Dear Sarah and all your lovely listeners, it was warm on this sombre, downcast moonlit night, where the prisms of soft gossamer light danced all over the gravestones of the ancient cemetery that stood stoically at the back of the church, where no one had been laid to rest for many decades. The sad, dilapidated, eroded stones, placed there in the 18th century, were covered in a plethora of moss and lichen. They bore no memory of who'd been buried in this lonely, forsaken place, for the hands of time had cruelly extinguished and expunged the names and dates of the long since deceased. This was something that had always bothered Adam Webber when he'd first visited the graveyard as a curious 10-year-old boy. It had struck him as so desperately sad that the people buried in this graveyard were long since forgotten about, almost as if these once flesh and blood human beings had never existed at all. Is that what death was like, he had pondered? Once you're gone, people will forget you, like the old autumn leaves from the previous fall that drop to the ground and become like the rich earthen, fertile mulch beneath your feet. It would seem so. Once gone, soon forgotten. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. It was the cycle of life, a continuous renewal. Everything that is born will one day die. Adam had never been able to get his head around this fact. Sometimes as a boy he had eagerly, indiscriminately pulled flowers out of his mother's flower beds and cycled all the way to the old churchyard, where he visited the sequestered cemetery, hidden at the back of the church, like an old kitchen garden, where he'd lay flowers at the gravestones, to let the deceased lying beneath those long since forgotten graves, that even if their names were no longer left on those stones, that they had not been completely forgotten, for someone in the 21st century had given them passing thought. His mother Sylvette had told him it was a very sweet thing for him to do. She had wiped a sorrowful tear away from her eyes and said, "You remind me so much of my father, love. He was such a kindly soul." "I just don't like to think that nobody cares about those dead people any more," he said to his mother, with wide, earnest eyes. "I mean, even Pastor Lee doesn't care about the old graveyard at the back of the church, does he?" "Sweetheart," his mother had said, brushing the curls of black hair away from his forehead affectionately, and looking straight into his disquieted green eyes. "Those people in that graveyard died a very long time ago, love, in the 1800s. The names have been eroded away by the elements, you know, the rain, the hail, the wind, that kind of thing. Of course it is desperately sad, but that is what time does, my love. Pastor Lee has got far too much to do with his time than to worry about those that have long since departed, who are not even or were not his parishioners. It's the living he has to worry about now. We can't help the dead, can we?" "I suppose not," Adam had agreed. "But all the same, it's horrible to forget about them." There was probably no more than over 100 tired, decrepit-looking gravestones in the cemetery that looked like broken, decaying, crooked teeth protruding from an old man's gums. The churchyard was regularly managed by a team of efficient, no-nonsense landscape gardeners who kept the grass sensibly cut and the colourful flower beds well maintained. But even though they tended to the old graveyard as a cursory afterthought, at least the graves were not buried beneath long grass, rambling vines and burgeoning creepers. The quaint little 18th century stone church, with its pretty arch-stained windows and charming bell tower, was still being used by regular parishioners, and it wouldn't look good if the old graveyard was overgrown and untended to, even if it was situated in the most obscure, ambiguous part of the churchyard, where it was overlooked by a densely wooded thicket of trees. It would seem no one ever visited the abandoned place, with, of course, the exception of Adam and his best friend Tyler, who'd been coming here for many years. It was here where they would talk together privately, under the canopy of a velvety sky, studded with the silvery stars and the rounded, handsome face of the pearly moon, that would always cast its prisms of ethereal light across the gravestones, making the graveyard almost magical. There was a long trail at the side of the church that went through the old cemetery into the woods, which in the neighbourhood fringed most of the properties in the local area in this rural part of Washington state. Adam Weber and his best friend Tyler Henry, who lived a stone's throw away from each other and had attended the same school since they were teeny boppers, had become incredibly close over the years. Adam thought of Tyler more as like a brother, as they did absolutely everything together. The two teenagers would clandestinely slip off to the cemetery in the dead of the night, especially on a Friday evening, to have a smoke and a couple of beers together, something that Adam kept well hidden from his no-nonsense father, who would be none too pleased if he had any idea of his son's rather reckless nocturnal activities. He already tirelessly complained that Adam slept in late on a Saturday morning, not of course realizing that the sleep-ins had a lot to do with being up and about until the late hours of the night, or more precisely, the early hours of the morning. Adam would return home, cautiously slipping back into the family house, rather like a furtive burglar, taking precautions to be as quiet as he possibly could to avoid waking his parents up. Adam, at 18 years old, felt very aggrieved that his father sometimes still treated him as if he was 10 years old. For Tyler's parents, by contrast, allowed the young man to do what the hell he liked. They considered him to be an adult. Adam was not so lucky. The temperature tonight was very much like a pleasantly warm summer's evening, so both teenagers were suitably attired, wearing short-sleeved cotton shirts and denim jeans. Somewhere in the distance a clock was striking 12, so 18-year-old Adam Weber lifted up his bottle of beer in mock salute to the witching hour, although he knew they would not see any ghostly spectres evacuating their graves to haunt the cemetery, now the clock had struck the hour. Nothing untoward or outer-worldly had ever happened in the old cemetery. When Adam and Tyler had first sneaked out of their homes all those years ago, to come to the graveyard at about 10 years of age, wearing only their pyjamas and riding on the back of their bikes, they had been almost certain that they would lay eyes on the spirits belonging to those ancient graves. So coming to the graveyard had all but been a thrill. But soon they realized, with a measure of disappointment, that the sad, sequestered place with its crooked graves was not spooky in the least, like they suspected it would be, but a very peaceful place where they enjoyed to spend time together. These days, on their visits to the graveyard, they never really gave the graves too much thought, for there was nothing menacing in the serene place, swaddled by the trees. Of course, they had heard far-fetched, fanciful tales about haunted graveyards before, but this little area, tucked away very discreetly at the back of the church, was only ever subjected to the distant cries of the coyotes, or the lonely hoot of an owl, and sometimes the flap of wings. It had become the perfect rendezvous for the young teenagers, who liked to use two of the gravestones in the cemetery as a backrest, as they sat side by side each other, with legs outstretched on the grass, while they smoked, drank, and talked. "I've got to go home," Adam slurred. "It's midnight and I'm drunk. If my mother saw me now, she'd do her nut. She hates it when I get drunk, but God forbid my father sees me. Then there'll be hell to pay. He already thinks I'm a loser, a lazy slob, everything else besides. He tells me that often enough. But of course he thinks the sun shines brightly out of Blaine's backside. These days she's become such a daddy's girl. It's so pathetic. Sometimes I don't even like my sister, I'm ashamed to admit. She's a lot like my dad, you know. Maybe that's why he likes her so much, because when he looks at her, he sees himself, and my dad just loves himself.
Why do you care what your parents think? You're not their little boy anymore. And I wish they would realise that instead of treat you like a naughty little kid all the time. You can do what you like, bro. My parents let me do what the hell I like. Soon you'll be leaving home. So do not let them dominate your life, especially that bullish father of yours that thinks he's all that. Your sister Blaine, she's a self-entitled, spoiled little brat. I've never had much time for her either. I can see why you don't like her very much. Don't feel bad about that, bro. Families. Who needs them? And we don't choose our families, do we? Nah, it's not that. I don't even care what my parents think. Not really. I'm beyond caring about that now, said Adam. It's just I've got a job interview in the morning at the warehouse in town. They have weekend jobs available. My father pointed it out to me. So typical of him to do that. He wants me to apply for a position there. Actually, to be honest, he's piling on the pressure for me to get it. They're looking for people willing to work hard, doing dog's body work, manual labour, that kind of thing. I need the money. I'm strapped for cash at the moment. I've already borrowed money from my father. He wants it back with interest. He wants you to pay him back with interest? Bloody cheek. What father does that? My dad doesn't win brownie points for being fair, Tyler. You know that well. But I need this job so I can get him off my back once and for all. It's all right for you, Tyler. Your father gives you a decent allowance. He gives you a bank card, a generous account to draw out money every month. You have no idea how good you have it. My dad, well, he's a tight-fisted bugger. I have to work for every penny I earn. There are no handouts in my home, let me tell you. As far as me and my mother are concerned, that is. But Blaine, oh, little Blaine, she's a different story altogether. As usual, she just has to look at my dad through her wide green eyes, and he becomes like a slot machine at a casino, just hemorrhaging money. He gives her everything she wants, and more besides. It's sickening. He's a mean sod, your father, said Tyler reflectively. Never liked him myself. Careful, that's my father you're talking about. Mind you, there's no point in defending his character, said Adam, taking a swig of his beer, and in disgust, realizing the bottle was now empty. He threw it across the grass so it landed close to the stone path. He wasn't worried about defiling the graveyard, as the gardening team always cleared up their mess after them, which was a bit presumptuous, but at this time of the night, in his slightly bladdered state, being tidy was the last thing on Adam's mind. If it makes you feel any better, said Tyler, I'm strapped for cash myself. I've spent all my pocket money. There's barely anything left in my account. My father is only transferring funds into my account at the beginning of the month. It really sucks being out of pocket like this. I can't tell him I'm running empty. He'd be shocked. He gives me enough money as it is, but it slips through my fingers like butter. And sometimes I just don't know where it went. Join the club, bro. Now you know what it feels like to be broke. No worse feeling in the entire world than being out of funds. I'm permanently poor, and it sucks big time, let me tell you. Good luck with the job, then. I do hope you get it. You want it, don't you? Asked Tyler, blowing out more smoke from the cigarette, so it pirouetted into the air in white swirls of smoke. He stabbed the butt of his cigarette into the ground and let out a wistful, rather weary sigh. Sorry, bro. I suppose that's a stupid question to ask you in the circumstances. Adam shook his head sorrowfully. Of course I don't want the bloody job. Are you kidding me? Absolutely not. The man who runs the joint, his name is Michael Parker. I understand he's a bit of a slave driver. So no, I'm not looking forward to it. Well, I haven't got it yet, have I? But I know it's hard physical back-breaking work, let me tell you, requiring a lot of lifting. But as my father keeps saying, beggars can't be choosers, and I need this job. He said that to you, said Tyler, making a smirk. So typical of your dad. He doesn't treat you right, bro. Now you know why I don't like your father. Don't worry. The feeling's mutual. My dad doesn't like you either. But he's not desperately fond of me, so I wouldn't worry about it. He keeps telling me that I'm like my mother's father, who died before I was even born. He looks down on my mother's father because he's so kind. Well, he was so kind, and he sees that as a weakness. Like a crack in the wall, so to speak. A leak in the roof, perhaps.
Why does that not surprise me? Said Tyler, taking a swig of his beer. I told you he's a mean bugger. It's no skin off my nose if your dad doesn't care for me very much. I don't give a toss about that. Well, he thinks you're self-entitled. A bad influence on me. When I told him your father transferred money into your account every month, he said you were a spoiled brat. And was it any wonder I was always asking for loans so that I could keep up with the Joneses and try and compete with you? I don't give a fig what your dad thinks of me. He's a loser. He should give you money. You should have an allowance by rights. You're his son, for God's sake. He's rich enough to wrap you in clover, but too mean to help you out. It sucks big time. Tyler paused for a brief moment in reflective thought, blowing out yet more swirls of white smoke into the dark, tenebrific night. And finally he said, You want money, bro? Adam cocked his head back in a mock laugh. You're joking, right? Of course I want money. But I know you can't help me out. It sounds like even your bank vaults are running empty. The two of us, we're like pitiful paupers at the minute. I have to hope I get a job at the warehouse to replenish my dwindling finances. If I don't get money soon, there'll be no more beers and cigarettes for us to enjoy out here in the graveyard. Until, of course, you get paid by your father. Unless you can pilferage a few beers from your fridge at home while he's not looking. I could do that, said Tyler. But what about the cigarettes? I'm running dry. My parents don't smoke. This is the last box I've got, he said, looking down sorrowfully at the empty box, as if hoping it would start sprouting out cigarettes. Well, don't look at me, Tyler, to help you out there. You're saddled with an impoverished best friend, I hate to remind you. I'm down to my last pennies. Even my sister Blaine refuses to give me a loan, and she's got sizable amount of money now, thanks to my father giving her anything she wants. She's a daddy's girl, let me tell you, and I don't mean that in a good way. Let's just say both Blaine and my grandfather are the two people I know sitting on their savings like a hen warming its eggs. My grandfather stashes cash around his house like a lot of old people do. He's afraid of banks, I suspect. Blaine, on the other hand, keeps her cash in a pillowcase, counts it every night. God forbid any of it goes missing. I'd be the first one she'd blame. Your grandfather? My God, said Tyler. Why didn't I think of it before? You've mentioned this to me, that he keeps a sizable amount of cash around his property. That's our answer, bro. It's staring us straight in the face. What about my grandfather? If you're thinking I can approach him for a loan, think again, Tyler. He's a miserly old sod. I know I shouldn't speak badly of my own flesh and blood, especially an old man, but I've never liked him very much. He's always waving his walking stick around in a threatening gesture, complaining bitterly about everything. You should see when he comes to our house for dinner on a Friday night. He picks faults at the meal my mother prepares for him, calls her a useless cook, and my mother's an excellent cook, I might say. But he likes things done a certain way. He's very pernickety, you know. He lives in that double-story house next to yours, isn't that right? That small place. The house on the other side belongs to Mr. and Mrs. Welsh, if I remember right. Yeah? What about it, bro? Well, you said it yourself. He's got savings. He keeps plenty of cash stashed around the house. Yeah, he does. He keeps some of his savings in the freezer, in a Tupperware container. I saw it there once, you know, when I was helping myself to ice cream, of all things. He doesn't know I discovered one of his hiding places. You're kidding, right? No, I'm not. I'd never been to his house before, even though I'm his grandson. But he asked my dad over once to play Monopoly with him, as his best friend was taken ill in hospital for surgery for a broken wrist or something like that after a fall. That man
always plays Monopoly and other board games with my grandfather. My dad didn't want to play Monopoly with the old bugger, so he sent me instead to appease my grandfather. My grandfather's obsessed with the game of Monopoly, so he must have money permanently on his mind. He was counting the fake stuff non-stop. I didn't enjoy playing with him one bit. He cheated all the time, but I never said anything. I thought it strange and pathetic for an old man to need to incessantly cheat. I mean, it's something a kid does. I had to play with him for my father's sake, but the cheating was very off-putting. That sucks, bro. Who wants to play with a cheat? I bet the man's a sore loser. I imagine he is, but I wouldn't know, because he's won all the Monopoly games he's played with me. Not that they're many, of course. Anyway, while I was at the house, my grandfather asked me if I wanted ice cream, and naturally I said yes. I mean, who in their right mind refuses ice cream? He told me he had a selection of Tom and Jerry's ice cream in his box freezer, and I could scoop several flavours in 2 bowls for us to enjoy. I'm sure while I was doing that, he was clandestinely putting some more hotels onto his properties in the game, because when I returned to the Monopoly board, it looked a hell of a lot different, let me tell you. My grandfather suddenly became a whole lot richer. He looked terribly pleased with himself, as if he'd pulled the wool over my eyes. But I knew what he'd done, sneaky bugger. You're right, that's pathetic. Seriously pathetic. He's an old man and he does that. He should know better. Anyway, when I went to the kitchen to prepare us our bowls of ice cream, as I was pulling out the ice cream from the cabinet, that was when I saw the Tupperware container. It was marked frozen rice. I had to push it away to get to the ice cream. It fell to one side and got my immediate attention. I heard a rattling sound. It ominously sounded like coins. I figured out that the Tupperware container did not contain rice after all. So you naturally looked inside, did you? Of course I did. I opened it to review the contents. It was full of frozen banknotes, loose coins. Quite a bit of money was in there. I'd say easily over $5,000, possibly more. I couldn't believe it. But I can't say I was remotely surprised. My bet is the miserable old sod has stashed money all over the house. It's probably under his mattress, in every nook and cranny. I know he doesn't trust banks in the slightest. He's always been a bit of a tight Scrooge. Even at Christmas, when we give him presents, he's quick to tell us he's forgotten our presents at home, and then they never materialise. Which leads me to suspect he never bought us a present in the first place. That sucks. Did you take any of the money you saw in the Tupperware container? Asked Tyler eagerly. Please don't tell me you didn't look a gift horse in the mouth, and take just a tiny bit for yourself. After all, you can justify it to yourself, for all the Christmas presents that you never received, that he claimed to have bought you, and your sister over the years, and obviously never did. Of course not. I'm not going to kid, I was tempted, but I know my grandfather counts all his Monopoly notes, so I suspect he does exactly the same with all the money he stashes around his house. Anyway, I'd been to the freezer for ice cream, and he'd have probably counted the money and put 2 and 2 together, and known that I was the one that must have taken it. He'd likely bang on our door in the middle of the night, scream blue murder, even call the police on me, and my dad would probably hit me with his belt. You're kidding? Your dad hits you with a belt? That's so not cool. Adam shrugged his shoulders nonchalantly. He's only done it a few times, when he's really pissed with me. If I stole my grandfather's money, not that he's got much time for the old man, but let me tell you he would beat me so hard that I probably wouldn't walk for a week. That happened to me once before, when he got so mad with me and completely lost it. I took spare change out of a drawer to order pizza for myself. He flew off the handle about that. He said I should never presume to take anything that is not mine. I know my grandfather beat him black and blue when he was a boy. He swore blind he'd never do the same to me. But it seems the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, does it? And when my father loses it, he lashes out. And I don't think he can help himself. It's like he loses all control over his temper. That's brutal, bro. Why didn't you ever say? Well, it's not the sort of thing you brag about, is it? That sort of punishment went out with the ark. Your father should know better.
Did it?
Said Adam scathingly. I doubt it. People today may not talk about it any more, because they're embarrassed. But you mark my words, it's still going on behind closed doors. I can bet on it. I mean, I've known you all my life, Tyler, and I'm only telling you this now, and you're my very best friend. It's not something I'm remotely proud of, and besides, even though me and my dad, we have our differences, I don't like to cast him in a bad light. You don't have to worry about that, bro. He's done that perfectly well for himself. It seems to me you were born into the wrong family, although your mum's cool. I like her. Yeah, she's all right. To tell you the truth, I feel sorry for her being married to my dad. He's always dictating what she can and cannot do. He dominates her life completely. She lets him get away with it. My mother will do anything to keep the peace. I still say it's crazy you didn't help yourself to some notes from that Tupperware container. You have to admit it. If your grandfather was our age, and he was skint, he'd have done the same if he'd stumbled across money like that. I often help myself to money from my mum's purse. It's no biggie. She does say things like, "Goodness gracious, I thought I had $20 in my purse." I must be losing my mind. I probably spent it. I think she probably suspects I took it, but she's too nice to say anything about it. And you don't feel guilty about taking your mother's money? Of course I don't feel guilty. She's my mother. I'm sure all teenagers do it anyway, if they can get away with it, that is. I don't consider that really stealing. I could never take money from my mum's purse, said Adam reflectively. But to be fair, in her case there would be nothing to take. It's really sad. My mother deserves so much better, but my dad watches over her every penny, like a great big bull mastiff on guard duty. I feel sorry for her having to account for all the money she spends. It must be so humiliating for her. That's because your dad is a prize cad. My father gives my mother anything she wants. What about your grandfather? Do you like him? No, I thought I just told you. He's a miserable old sod that cheats at all his board games. I've got no time for him. He keeps himself to himself, has a few close friends. He comes to dinner at our house every Friday night like clockwork. Actually, he was supposed to have dinner with us this very evening. He cancelled at the last minute due to feeling a little peaky. Beyond that, we never really see him much. But when I do, he's always tirelessly complaining. I know my own father can't stand the sight of the man. Think about it, bro. If we crept into your grandfather's house, maybe we could get through a window or something. We could steal that Tupperware container out of his freezer. You wouldn't have to get that job at the warehouse. You could hold out longer for something so much better, something that won't break your back quite so hard. And then you could ask Bonnie out on your first date. You've been dying to ask her out, and I know she likes you, bro. You think she likes me? I know so. I've seen the way she looks at you. She's probably wondering why you've never asked her out. Well, I haven't asked her out because I've got no bloody money, bro. It's as simple as that. I don't want to humiliate myself by having to ask her to go Dutch with me. I could never do that. That would be so humiliating. That's why you should sneak into your grandfather's house, raid the freezer while he's fast asleep in bed. How hard can it be? If we hear any noises, we can leave the house at once. Let's do it, man. But supposing we're able to do that, surely my grandfather would know it was me if his money went missing from that freezer of his. Besides, he's my grandfather, and even if I don't particularly like him, it's wrong to steal, isn't it? Don't go all moral on me, Adam, over an immoral man. You could look at it as a loan. Return the money to his freezer when you're more flush if you like. He'll think he mislaid the money, found it again. You yourself said he's too mean to loan you the money, so don't bother asking. Take it yourself. Pay him back at a later stage if it makes you feel better. Personally, I wouldn't bother. Besides, why would he know it was you? If money goes missing from his freezer, he'll think he misplaced it. Old people are incredibly forgetful. He'll probably think he put it somewhere else. When did you help yourself to that ice cream? How long ago was it? Can you remember?
Adam thought long and hard about Tyler's question. The idea of having some free-flowing cash in hand was a pleasing one indeed. He desperately needed money, and sadly it didn't grow on trees. If he had disposable income easily accessible to him, life would be so very different. He wanted to take Bonnie out on the town for goodness sake, buy her a big slap-up meal and a bouquet of roses, but he had never been able to invite her out, not even once. The girl may have suspected he liked her, but he'd not been able to do a damn thing about pursuing her, which made him appear as if he had no balls whatsoever and was cowering in the shadows like a complete idiot. How could he ask a girl out if he had no money to pay for their meal together? It was embarrassing. It was better not to take her out on a date at all, if you couldn't treat her right. Adam was old-fashioned in this regard, but he had fancied Bonnie Patterson for a very long time. From the moment he first laid eyes on her in the old church, and she had smiled at him from across the pew, in that quintessential moment, his heart had melted like butter. He didn't know what it was about Bonnie, or why he liked her so much. Some might have described her as a little on the mousy side, but in Adam's eyes she was the most beautiful thing he had ever beheld. He was 18, but he knew that 19-year-old Bonnie was the girl he would one day marry. That was if the circumstances in the game of life fortuitously rolled in his favour. At the moment Bonnie Patterson was going out with that low-life Greg Hungerford, and Adam was absolutely certain she didn't even really like the young man, for Greg was arrogant, opinionated, cocky, and incredibly wealthy, thanks to his over-generous father. But beyond that, Greg Hungerford did not have much going for him, even though he was easy on the eye, with his blonde hair, golden complexion and blue eyes that gave him that easy-going surfer look that so many people like. The only thing that had stopped Adam from asking Bonnie on a date was that he had been permanently strapped for cash, so $5,000 split between the two of them could be life-changing indeed. Adam knew he could not rely on his penny-pinching father for any more handouts, as he'd never been generous to him, even though his father was not poor by any stretch of the imagination. The silver BMW parked pridefully in their driveway was testimony to this fact. Adam knew his father was highly respected in the company where he worked as a CEO for an up-and-coming Japanese organization that had earned an illustrious reputation over the years, with its innovative, pioneering and cutting-edge products that were launched on the American market. So there we are, that's the end of part 1 of our story. Part 2 is tomorrow night, and I've got a feeling these boys are about to break into their grandfather's house. And goodness gracious, I don't know if it's going to pan out okay for them. So until tomorrow night, we'll find out about that. I look forward to you joining me then. Until next time, goodbye and good night.